Assalamualaikum and very good day to all of you. So I am Dr. Nadira binti Darus. Today I'm going to cover the next topic for our class, which is project estimating MKAM1037 section 1. Okay. So today's topic is more on engineering economy. Okay, for your information, as I mentioned just now, on behalf of PM Azirudin, I will cover today's class. So hopefully by next week, he will continue to the next topic. Okay. All right. Okay. First of all, I would like to share today's what we call outline, and also before that, I would like to have some quick check for our topics, and then for the assessment. So basically this quick check is more on my part. Okay. All right. So here we have several topics that that need to be covered by me. All right. So basically week 5 for today's class, we have engineering economy topic. And then supposed to be 3 more weeks later on, starting from week 11, 13 and 14 also will be covered under my part. All right. However, according to the situation or condition by PM Azirudin, all of these arrangement or topic arrangement may subjected to changes. Okay. Any changes regarding the class or regarding the lecture, I will notify all of you through WhatsApp group or e-learning. Okay. So basically this is my topics and for the assessment part, which is focus on my part, I will cover for about 10% of your carry marks. Okay. So for this subject or for this course, project estimating, you have 60% for your carry marks, and then the rest 40% is for your final exam. All right. So the division of this or the breakdown of the 60% is going to be divided to 3 lecturers, whereby the first part has been covered by Dr. Izzy Adiana. Okay. And then the second part should be covered by PM Azirudin, and I will cover the final part of this class. So for my part, the assessment is only covered for 10%. And the other thing is that I will cover only for test 2. Okay. Okay, before this, Dr. Izzy has mentioned regarding the test 1, right? Is it right?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, so far she has decided to conduct the test on 30th of November, right? At the end of
Yes.
this month. Okay.
Yes, Doctor.
So, all right. So for the current updates, there are some changes regarding the test date. So it will be changed to 14 of December. Okay, which is on week 10. Because test 1 and test 2 will be covered, will be combined, meaning that we will conduct the test at the same time. Okay, for Dr. Izzy's part and for my part. Okay, so I would like to ask all of you, is it okay if we set the new date for the test, which is on the 14th of December? Is everyone okay for this date?
Sorry.
Okay. Pardon?
Doctor, for that date, I have to attend vocation in UTM. Yes, Doctor.
Okay, you. All right. So you have convocation on this date. Okay.
Yes.
Only Aziza, how about the rest of you? Is it okay for the rest of you? Because 14th of December is actually on week 10. Okay, we try, if possible, we try to make it on, how about on the week 11, the next class, on our next class, which is week 11. Are everyone available during this time? Okay. All right. I think so far,
23, Doctor?
pardon? Week
Will
11.
it be 23 November?
Week 11, let me check the date for the week. 14, 21st.
Or 21st?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So,
fine for me.
all right. So, I assume that is also okay for the rest of you, right? 21st December 2020. Okay. All right. So far we try to log this date for our test. Okay. And again, I would like to remind all of you, this test on this date we will cover both tests, test 1 and test 2, whereby for my part and also the easy part. Okay. All right. So far, is everything clear regarding the topics and assessment? Do you have anything to clarify or anything to ask before we proceed to our today's class? Okay. So everything okay, right? No question. All right. Okay, thank you for your response, Aziza, Izati, and the rest of you. Okay, so I think without further delay, just now we have confirmed the date for our assessment, which is on 21st of December. Right, so any changes later on to be updated through WhatsApp group or e-learning. All right, so I will proceed to this topic, which is on engineering economy. All right, so basically this is several topics outlines for today's class. Okay, for your information, today I'm going to cover more on principle or fundamental part of this topic. So there are several outlines such as overview of engineering economy, and then I'm going to cover on cost classification, project cost description, and the rest. However, at the end, I try to cover some of the example of calculation, whereby it is just a simple calculation related to today's topic, and the rest of the detailed calculation to be covered by PM Azhiruddin. Okay. So fully all of you are ready for today's class. Okay. All right. So for the introduction part related to this topic, which is overview of engineering economy. Okay. Regarding this topic, the main or the important thing is that it's directly related to the economic decision making. So that's the main reason why we need to understand, or we need to study on engineering economy, so that later on the engineers or the related parties are able to have an economic decision making, which is the main target or their goal is to reduce the cost, and at the same time they can have greater or bigger benefit or profit. So that's why we do have this engineering economy. All right. So this what we call this topic is not only limited for civil engineers. It also applicable to other field such as mechanical, electrical, and also the rest of the fields, especially for the financial and accounting. Okay. All right. For the introduction part, engineering economy is actually involved formulating, estimating, and evaluating the expected economic outcomes of alternative designed to accomplish a defined purpose. Okay, so this is the main gist or the main purpose of this engineering economy. Okay, there are several activities related or that need to be conducted in order for the engineers or for the respected parties to come up with an economic decision making, and also for them to accomplish their defined purpose. As I mentioned just now, they try to come out with the lower cost. However, at the same time, they try to have greater benefit of profit. Okay. All right. And then besides that, this topic also deals with the evaluation of these systems, products, and services in relation to their cost. Okay, so in our context, especially for civil engineers or construction management, we try to deal with the evaluation of project delivery itself. Okay, so system or product here, we try to relate with the project, uh, especially the construction project. Okay, in relation to their cost, meaning that on how we estimate the cost related to the project in order to deliver the cost within the specified time, which is according to the design and specification. Okay, that's why we need to have a good engineering economy, okay, for this project estimating subject. Okay. Right. The next one. Okay, so far is everything okay, right? If throughout the class, if you have anything to ask or anything to share, you may do so. Okay, you may interrupt me during my explanation. Okay, so we try to have a two-way communication. Okay, instead of only me speaking. So all of you also can give some response or can give some inputs or anything to share. Okay. All right. So this is the continuation for the previous one, which is still on the overview of engineering economy. Okay, sometimes engineering economy, the term itself, we can use ataupun we can refer to engineering economic analysis, and also sometimes it is being called as capital allocation study. So all of these terms are actually quite similar and referring to the same context of the uh, engineering economy content. Okay, so why we need this engineering economy? Because as I mentioned just now, engineers play a vital role in capital investment, especially for construction project. Capital investment decision, which is based upon their ability and experience. So that's why they need to have a proper and a good evaluation of the economy itself in order to come out with the better decision making. Okay. This is because most decision involve money, which is commonly called as capital or capital fund. This one, which is limited in amount, because as we already know that a fund or the budget for the project itself, it's uh, it's uh, is an important resources for the project to be delivered or to be constructed. So that's why we need to handle the cost properly. We need to have a good project estimation or the estimation value, so that we come out with the appropriate and proper estimation, so that it will help to ensure the smooth flow of the project. Okay, if there is any if there is any problems regarding the cash flow or regarding the budget of the project itself, so it for sure will affect the progress of work, and obviously it will cause the delay of construction works. Okay, so that's why we need to consider this what we call this component appropriately and come up with a better or good estimation value. Okay. And the other thing is that engineering ethics are mostly intertwined with the roles of money and economics-based decision. Okay, so any ethics for the professionals are mostly related with the capital or money itself. So we need to properly handle the capital or the fund so that we can have a good cash flow and we try to avoid any unethical problems such as or unethical attitudes such as corruption and the other related unethical activities lah for the cost management. Okay, I think that's all for the introduction part for this topic. Okay, all right. So now we will move to the next subtopic, which is actually this is the main component for this topic of engineering economy, because all of you need to have some view or some overview regarding the cost classification, because it is very important for you to properly classify and identify the type of cost so that it is easier for you to later on to do the, for example, to do the estimation, to do the related calculation. Okay, so that's why I will cover on this subtopic, which is on cost classification. All right. Actually, in engineering economic analysis or any other financial analysis, there are several types or variety of costs to be considered, okay, for the evaluation or for the calculation to be conducted or to be done. Okay, these types or the category of the cost is basically differ in terms of frequency of occurrence, relative magnitude, and also degree of impact. Okay, so in overall, there are so many types of costs that we need to know, and some of them are the main type of cost that we need to understand, and the rest just a complement to the main type of cost. Okay. All right. Mostly the classification of the cost is categorized based on behavior, life cycle, and decision making. So later on, we are going to look at on this cost classification based on this category. Okay. The most common one is behavior. Okay, later I will share the breakdown for each cost classification. Okay. All right. This is the first classification, which is based on the behavior. Okay, for behavior, I'm sure that some of you or all of you already aware or already familiar with this term, where we have what the first one we have variable cost and the other one we have fixed cost. Okay, so these two types or two classification of cost are quite common, which is based on the behavior of the cost itself. All right. Okay, so I hope if you are still unfamiliar with this type of cost, so later on, hopefully that you are able to identify and categorize the cost based on its classification. All right. Okay. For the first type of cost under the behavior classification, which is the variable cost, sometimes most of the time, we also recognize it as direct cost, DC. Okay. So this cost is directly associated with an activity. So that's why we call it as direct cost. And it relates to the main function of an activity level. So that's why we call it as direct cost. And the other thing is that it varies in total with the output quantity and activity level. So that's why we call it as variable, because the cost itself will varies based on the quantity or the output of the certain project activity itself. Okay, for example, if we have earthwork, okay, for example, we have earthwork. Okay, for sure we need to have the resources to conduct this earthwork, to construct the earthwork. For the main resources are materials. Okay, okay, the main resources, material, machinery, and also manpower. Okay, so basically all of these costs are the are considered as variable cost for this type, because it is directly associated with the earthwork activity itself. Okay. Okay. And then on the other hand, we also have fixed cost. So any fixed cost, usually it is in contrast to the variable cost, because it is indirectly associated with the activity. And it is also called as indirect or overhead cost. Because it is unaffected by the changes in activity level. And most important thing is that it cannot be conveniently assigned to a particular activity. Okay, so so far is everything okay? Is everything clear regarding the cost classification based on the behavior? All right. Okay, thank you for your response. Okay, and then we will continue to the next cost classification. I think this is the example for this variable and fixed cost. All right. As I mentioned just now, for the resources cost, we have these three main types. We have material, machinery, plants or equipment. And then we also have manpower, which is the labor to construct the works. Okay, so I have highlighted here so that all of it is easier for all of you to remember. Variable cost related or refers to the resources cost. Okay, so material, there are so many construction materials. For example, we have cement, sand, reinforcement bar, and so on for the material part. And then for the machinery, of course, we need to have a machinery cost to construct the work, especially for the large and complex project. Okay, it is impossible for the workers to conduct the works manually, so they need to use all the related machinery in order to complete the required work. And then we need to have labor costs. So all of these resources costs are considered as variable costs, because all of these are directly related to the output or the productivity of the work. Okay, here we have. Okay, wait for a while. Okay, then for example, for fixed cost, we have constant cost, such as that one, as I mentioned just now, it is what we call, it is unaffected by the changes in activity level. So these are the example of the fixed cost we need to cover for land, building costs, and any salary or rental payment fall under this category. And then any required equipment or facility, for example, for site office facilities, all of that cost will be fall under this category. Similar also for insurance and tax. Okay, So any payment, any related payment for insurance, taxes, rentals and salary should be categorized in this type of cost, which is fixed cost. Okay. Okay, so now we will proceed to the next cost classification. Okay, the next one, just now we have looked at on the classification of cost based on the behavior. And then the second part, cost classification, which is based on the life cycle of the project itself. Okay, for example, here we have the example of life cycle cost of construction project, whereby this is the life cycle for the project itself, starting from the, here we have extraction of the raw materials, and then continue to the next stage of manufacture, transportation, and then we have here construction stage. Once we have completed with the construction, and for sure we need to have maintenance or operational stage for the building to be operated and maintained well. Okay, and then at later part, depending on the situation or depending on the requirement, the building may require refurbishment or demolition. Okay, for the development or for the new construction, and the ending for this life cycle of the project is recycling of the building waste or the building materials. Okay, that's why we have life cycle of construction project. Okay. Okay, the main thing is that we have each project or product has a life cycle. So herewith we have the life cycle for the construction project. Okay. Any cost or any what we call any capital incurred during the cycle of the project or the product will be considered as life cycle cost. So that's why we categorize the cost as life cycle cost. And then in this category, both direct and indirect costs are also included to the possible extent. Okay, some of the costs may be overlapped, okay, and interrelated to each other. Okay, for the second cost classification. All right. How about the next one? Okay. So this is just a brief, what we call brief overview for the second cost classification. So hopefully all of you can understand and also grab the main idea for the cost classification. Okay. All right. For the third one, the third classification we have based on the decision making. Okay, mostly the decision making. Previously, I have mentioned that it is very important for the engineers to come up with the good decision making for the project to be well delivered and well constructed. Okay, so that's why we need to understand each of the cost or type which is fall under this category. Okay. In total, we have about, here we have about 6 category or 6 type of cost under this cost classification. Okay, the first one we have cash cost, book cost, and the next one we have sunk cost, and fund opportunity, followed by marginal and incremental cost. So we try to briefly cover one by one of decision-making classification. Okay, for the first cost for this category, we have cash cost, which involve any cash payment. Okay, so any cash payment will result in cash flow or appear in cash flow, whereby it will be considered in the cash flow itself. So we refer it as cash. Okay. As compared to book cost, it's quite in contrast to the cash cost, because book cost is referring to the non-cash cost or book. So it's quite easier for us to remember the name itself or the term itself referring to the definition of the cost. Okay, so cash cost is basically for the payment in cash. Book cost is vice versa for the cash cost. Okay, there is no cash transaction for the book cost. Okay, because it represents the recovery of past expenditures over a fixed period of time. Okay, the most common example for the second type of cost is depreciation. Okay, later on, I will show briefly on this depreciation cost and also the methods to calculate the depreciation. Okay, so depreciation itself refers to the charge for the use of assets not being considered as cash flow. Okay. For example, we have later on. I think you will you will know more regarding this depreciation, because it will still going will be covered under. It will detail regarding the calculation and the estimation for the related to the depreciation cost. Okay, so the most simple example for the depreciation is related to the plant and machinery. Okay, for example, if the contractor purchase a plant or machinery for their project, for example, they have excavator. So any kind or any type of plant or machinery such as a related plant have the depreciation cost. Okay, because throughout the time, the condition of the plant and machinery itself is gonna to reduce. Okay, or from the new condition, it will be what we call, it will be old. So that's why we have for is a purchasing of a car. So it's just the same, because any vehicle that we purchase also have its depreciation value over the time. Okay, starting the first year that during we buy the vehicle or we buy the plant, so throughout the years it will be depreciated, and for sure it will have depreciation cost or depreciation value. Okay. Okay, so now the first one, the third one, we have sunk cost, or sometimes it being called as sinking cost. Okay, sinking cost. Okay, the other term for this cost also we can call it as past cost or unrecoverable cost of an asset. Okay. It is not recoverable because it is irreversibly incurred and also committed. Okay, once it's been done being paid, it will be past. It will be categorized in the past cost and not be considered in the decision making for future action. Okay, you need to remember this. Some costs will not be considered in the decision making for future action. Okay. And the next one, we have opportunity cost, which is referred to a foregone opportunity cost by the inability to pursue a project. Okay, opportunity cost more on the advantageous side because largest what we call the cost itself refers to the cost of potential benefit foregone. Sometimes the contractor are unable to pursue with a project or unable to proceed with to construct a project due to the inability of the capital. So if later on they are able to construct the project itself, so they are able to gain this opportunity cost where the largest rate of return of all uh, not funded project due to lack of capital funds. Okay, so later on if they able to construct or to get the project, they may have the large rate of return. Okay, that's fall under the opportunity cost. All right, so that's four. So far we have 4 types. Okay, so far do you have anything to ask, or is everything is clear? Okay, because today I'm just cover on the principal part. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. So I hope all of you can understand, can grab the main idea for today's class, today's topic. Okay, the next one, continue to the cost classification based on decision making. We have marginal cost and also incremental cost. Okay, for marginal cost, it refers to the year-by-year estimates of the cost to own and operate an asset for that year. It's more on cost of ownership. Okay. The other thing is that foregone interest on the market value at the beginning of the year, and it also refers to the annual operating cost for each year. Okay. Okay. So that's the definition for the marginal cost. Okay, maybe later on you may you may need to understand on this because in preparing your estimation or related calculation. Okay, the last one we have incremental cost, which is referring to the cost of producing or constructing additional product or activity respectively. Okay, so if we have any additional product or any additional activity to be done or to be produced, it will refers to this incremental cost. Sometimes we also call it as differential cost. Okay, because it is basically an additional cost that need to be covered by the contractor or the respected parties to come up with the product or to complete an activity in order to deliver the project. Okay. So far that's all for the cost classification, which is the first one we have just now we have behavior cost classification. Under the second one we have life cycle cost for the to classify the cost, and then the last one we have decision making. Okay, so these three are the common classification of cost. However, the first one is the most category or classification being used by the respected parties. Okay, so hopefully for now you can identify the cost type and also its category. Okay. cover on project cost description. So for this, we have basically these costs are directly related to the project. In our context, we have a construction project. Okay. This one you need to properly understand because it is also related to the cash flow of the project costing, and also, if I'm not mistaken, it's also related to the forecasting and the cost management of the project. Okay, so that's why you need to properly identify and need to properly classify this type of cost. Okay, so for your information, the total cost for project cost, we have direct cost and also indirect cost. So we have here DC and IC, which is the same with the previous one that I have shared just now. Okay, so previously we have this one. Here we have variable and fixed cost. So variable cost is actually DC, and then fixed cost we have indirect cost. So sometimes we refer it as direct cost, and sometimes we refer it as variable cost. So here we see, and this one is FC, okay, fixed cost. Okay, in construction project, so basically direct cost is the main cost related to the project itself because it contributes for about 90% of the total cost, whereby the indirect cost only contribute for 10%. So the total will be 100%. Okay, so that's why we need to properly manage this direct cost because anything happen to this direct cost will directly affect the project itself, especially in terms of cost planning, in terms of time scheduling. All of that problems will cause delay in construction project. Okay, so we try to manage, we try to estimate properly and prepare the good estimation, which is helps in the good decision making related to the items which is fall under this direct cost. Okay, so later we will look at the item for this cost. All right. Okay. Here will also I would like to share regarding the total cost and also profit. Okay, in construction we have, so far we have DC, direct cost plus indirect cost, which is equal to the total cost. However, if we add up these two, total cost and profit, profit which is referring to the contractor's markup, so at the end we will come up with this contract value. Okay, so this simple equation or simple formula, I hope all of you can try to remember this so it is easier for you to do the calculation or do the required estimation. Okay, especially if it related to the cash flow. Okay, so this is also related to the project cost description. Okay, based on this graph or this figure, we have direct costs and also indirect costs here. So as we can see here that throughout the time or throughout the construction period, here we have cost versus time or cost versus period of construction. The allocation of direct costs usually will be in this kind of distribution or the shape. So that's why it formed the inverted curve. And the indirect cost, because it is fixed, okay, it is fixed cost. So the allocation will mostly or probably will be the same throughout the progress of the works or throughout the construction period. Okay, so that's why there are different different line form for these two type of cost. Okay. So hopefully all of you can understand this. Okay. All right. Okay. So before we proceed to the next subtopic, is everything clear for the project cost description? Okay. Thank you. We have here Anissa Nuraini, Kah N. All right. Okay. So now the next part we are going to cover on the depreciation methods. Okay. This one just the same as I mentioned before. Okay. It's related to the depreciation cost. Okay. For your information, there are 5 main types of method ataupun common method related to how we want to calculate the depreciation cost or depreciation value. First, we have straight line method, and then balance method, and rest are sinking fund and also service. Some of these methods are quite similar to each other. However, there are still some difference among these methods. Okay, so I try to cover briefly on the each type of this method. However, to this class, we are not going to cover on the calculation for the depreciation. Okay. Right. So, for the first method, we have straight line and we have declining balance. Okay. So basically, these two methods are the most common, the most familiar with among the financial or the any other related practitioner. Okay. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me? Or is there any lagging for the audio? Okay. All right. So I will proceed. So if throughout the class, if there is any connection loss, please inform me. I will proceed to the method. Okay, for the first method for the straight line, so here we remember that methods will have fixed sum. Okay, sorry. Okay, is everything clear? Or I have some connection issues?
You are breaking up, doctor. Yeah.
Pardon? Or is that boleh dengar eh? If everything okay, I will proceed. Okay. Sebab nak hujan juga ni. Hopefully the stable for us to can proceed with the class. Okay. Alright, again for the depreciation method, the first one we have straight line. Remember for as the depreciation amount as decline balance for the constant percentage of the book value that will be charged. Okay, so for the straight line there will be no percentage for the charge. The sum is a fixed amount, okay, throughout the lifetime of an asset. And then accumulated sum at the end of the asset life is exactly equal to the purchase value of the asset. So maksudnya here there is only charge, however the charge is in fixed sum, okay, fixed amount. All right, so that's why on our left side we have this chart showing the straight line for this depreciation method. Okay, that's why we call it as straight line depreciation. Okay, as compared to the second one, we have declining balance. As we can see here that the graph or the figure itself showing the curve line, because there is a constant percentage of the book value from the previous asset period will be charged as the depreciation amount, because the charge itself has its percentage value, okay, as compared to the straight line. And the other thing is that declining balance method is more realistic approach, where the depreciation charge decrease with the asset life. So overall it's quite simple. However, there are some difference between these two methods, because the first one is fixed and the other one have its own percentage. Okay, and the last one for the declining balance, we have book value at the end of the asset life may not is exactly equal to the salvage value of the asset. Okay, this is the difference between these two methods. Okay, so far okay, all of you? All right, okay. Okay, thank you. Then we will proceed to the next method, which is on sum of the year's digits. Okay, basically this method, it's more on the accelerated depreciation techniques. Okay, because as compared to the first one, there is no fixed sum charge for this sum of the digit years, because we need to total up the depreciation years so that we have this accelerated depreciation. And then it is also assumed that the book value of the asset decreases at decreasing rate. Okay, as we can see here that third and fourth method are differ in terms of the rate itself, because the third method of sum of the year's digits have a decreasing rate. However, for the sinking fund, we have increasing rate with respect to the asset life. Okay. Sinking fund method also have its accumulated fund for the replacement purpose, which is the main difference as compared to the third method. Okay. And for the last or final type of depreciation method, we have service output. Okay, sometimes we also call this method as working hours method. Okay, because the depreciation will be based or computed based on the service itself, service of the asset, instead of based on the time period or lifetime of the asset. Okay, so that's why we call it as service output. Okay, so let me, okay, that's the depreciation, which focusing on the depreciation method. So in overall, there are five methods for calculate the depreciation. So later on, you may try to go through one by one. Okay, do your self revision and also self study to understand more on this method. Okay, if you have anything to ask, you may ask me you may also ask PM Azirudin. Okay. Before we proceed to the later on, we have some simple calculation. So I will cover on this next subtopic, which is on interest type. Okay, so basically interest is also the main component for the financial evaluation and also financial analysis. So that's why we need to cover on this also. And then because it is quite common or quite famous for the financial analysis. Okay, so we are going to cover on the types of interest. Okay, so basically interest itself refers to the monetary cost of the money or amount charged for borrowing the money. Okay, this is the definition for the interest itself. And the main purpose of interest is actually to cover the risk of capital loss, administrative expenses, and also profit. So that's why the financial player or any related parties, the funder itself will gonna charge this, will charge the interest to the borrower. Okay. So basically we have two types of interest. The first one we have simple interest, and then second one we have compound interest. So here we have the illustration or the line graph for this two type of interest. The colored line represent the simple interest. So that this is just a straight increasing line. However, it's quite different for the compound interest. Okay, this is the shape for the compound interest, and this red dotted line represent the difference between these two interest types. Okay. Right. Okay, so now there are some description or the definition for each of the type for the interest. So the first one, we have simple interest. Simple interest, as the name mentioned, we have just a straightforward calculation where the calculation of interest on interest is not applicable because it will not consider the previous interest charge, the current interest rate for the whole overall calculation. Okay, this kind of interest only will be based on the principle, which ignoring any interest in preceding interest period. Okay, so only the current interest rate will be considered for the calculation. All of these descriptions are quite in contrast with the second type of the interest, which is compounded. Compounded interest itself is referring to the accumulated interest because the previous interest rate will be accumulated throughout the interest period and will be included in the calculation. This kind of interest mostly used in financial or economic analysis, which reflects the effect of time value of money. Okay. So as I mentioned just now, compounded interest is based on the principal. We have capital or principal here, plus the total amount of interest accumulated in all previous period. So later we will try to cover on simple calculation for these two types of interest. Okay, so we are gonna look at on the formula for this interest. Okay, for the simple interest, as it's been described, the interest itself refers to the principal times by the number of period of interest, and then we just times with the interest rate per interest period. Okay, So this is the formula for the simple interest calculation. And at the end, for the total amount repaid at the end of the period interest or the year for the interest is equal to the principal amount plus with the interest itself. So it will be the total amount repaid. Okay. And on our right side, we have the formula or equation for the compounded interest, where it slightly differ from this simple interest because the principal need to be plus or added with the accumulated interest, which is this one, and then we just need to times with the interest rate. So then we will come out with the interest value for this compounded method or compounded type. Okay. Okay. So far, before we proceed with calculation or some simple example related to today's topic, is everything clear so far? Can you still hear me? Okay. Thank you. All right. So before we proceed with calculation, I think we can have a short break. So next one. Okay, next one we will cover on examples of calculation which related to today's topic. So mainly there are three types of calculation that we are going to cover. The first one, total cost, followed by fixed and variable cost. And the last one, I will also share regarding the simple and compound interest. Okay. Okay, for the first one, total cost, as I shared previously, total cost is equal to indirect cost plus direct cost. Okay, right. And then it also just the same with the total cost is equal to fixed cost. Here F refers to the fixed cost, and then we have here V, variable cost. Okay, so you can use this equation depending on the given situation or the given question. Okay, and the third one, we have here 1, 2, and 3. So basically, the first and second one is depending on the term or type of cost used. If the given question is give you the indirect and indirect cost, you just use the first one, and the given cost are fixed and variable cost, so you proceed to the second one. And for the third one, it's also related to the total cost calculation. Okay, however, it quite different for this part. Okay, we see. So variable cost will be convert to this component, which is variable number times with the output. Also, the rest TC and FC is just the same. However, it's slightly different for this part. Okay, you need to remember this equation so that it is easier for you to do the calculation. Okay, so now we will look at to the related example. Okay, the first example, example 1, is related to the total cost calculation. Okay, for the first question, we have, it is given that variable and fixed costs required to mix 1 meter cube of concrete are 5 ringgit and 100 ringgit respectively. So it is given, we have here VC and also FC. Okay, the question requires you to produce a linear equation of the total cost for concrete mixing cost. So you just apply the formula straightforward. Okay, because it is already given the VC and FC. However, for the VC, here you need to use this one, AQ, variables times with the output, because this question relates to the output of the concrete mixing. Okay, so the equation that you need to produce is that just use this equation and insert the related values. So for this case, total cost is equal to fixed cost, which is given that it is 100 ringgit. Just put here 100 plus with the 5Q, because 5 represent the A. Here A for the fixed cost constant for this meter cube of concrete mixing. So this is the final linear equation for this question. Okay, so it's quite simple and straightforward, as long as you are able to identify the type of each given value. Okay, and then the next one, the question asks you to calculate the total cost to mix 1000 meter cube concrete per day. Okay, so just use this what we call this linear equation related to this question, and just insert the given value, which is for this case is 1000. So at the end you will obtain this 5,100 ringgit in order for the contractor to mix 1000 meter cube concrete per day. Okay, so the first is example of total cost is just straightforward. So I hope all of you can or all of you are able to do the calculation. So you need to understand each of the cost type. Okay. All right. The next calculation is related to the fixed cost and variable cost. Okay. I hope all of you can understand this calculation, because this calculation will be part of the test 2 topic for my question, okay, for my part. So even most of the topics that I'm going to cover related to the fundamentals and principle. However, there are still some simple related calculation that will be included in your test and also final exam. Okay, especially for my part. Okay. All right. So then we proceed to the second example, which is focusing on the fixed cost and variable cost. Okay, here the question is quite long, quite detailed as compared to the first one. All right. For this question, it is mentioned that the contractor, most of the question related to the FC and VC require you to choose the best option for the given situation. Okay, for example, for this question, the contractor has a choice of 2 sites to set up asphalt mixing plant and machinery for surfacing of new highway. So basically, this one is related to the road construction or pavement construction. Okay, pavement. Okay, I'm sorry for the bad handwriting. Okay, and then in this case, the contractor estimates the cost to haul asphalt paving material from okay, from mixing plant to the site. It's $1.15 per cubic yard mile. Okay, and the other information given here is that cost factors of both sides are as follows. Later we will look at to the next table. The details breakdown of the cost factor related to this question, where production costs at each site are the same. So This statement can be used as a assumption for this question. Okay. The next one, we will look at the cost factor ataupun dia punya its cost breakdown. Okay. For this case, or for this example, there are several types or several factors for the cost breakdown. We have the first one, we have hauling cost and the rental, hauling, rental. The second one, cost to set up and remove related equipment for the road construction. And then, the first one is the distance, given distance for the hauling for both side A and B. And this the cost for the hauling expenses. And the last one, we have flat percent or the labor to supervise the works. Okay. Okay, on the right side, we have information related to the side A and side B. Okay, side A, we have some difference as compared to the side B. Side A, we have greater or larger distance for the average hauling within 6 months as compared to side B. And relates to the rental for the site. Site A is quite cheaper, much cheaper than site B, which is similar goes to the cost to set up and remove the equipment, whereby the site A is only about $5,000, and this for site B, the amount is to $25,000. Okay, the rest of the information, hauling expenses for both are the same because it is $1.5 per yard cubic mile. Okay, cubic yard mile. And then the last information given for this question related to the flat percent, where for side A there is no requirement for flat percent, and for side B there is a charge rate to employ flat person. Okay, so this is the information given for this example in order for us to calculate the fixed cost and variable cost. Okay, so just now is the related information. So this is the main question for this example. Okay. Okay, as we can see here that the job which is the construction of new road or pavement requires 50,000 cubic yards of mixed asphalt paving material. It is estimated that 4 months dia punya its project duration. It is estimated that 4 months which is equivalent to 17 weeks of 5 working days will be required to complete the works ataupun the project. Okay, so you need to properly remember, or you need to properly identify all the given information. So all of this will be used to the calculation in your calculation. Okay. So what are you going to do for this example is you need to compare the two sides in terms of fixed cost, FC, and FC, VC, and also its total cost. Okay. Assume that the cost of the return trip for the transportation is negligible. So you need to choose or you need to explain which side is better. Okay. So this is the first requirement of first question for this example. Okay. So I will proceed just briefly explain the second question. Okay, for the second question, for the selected site, because the first question you need to choose or you need to evaluate which site, whether site A or site B is better. Then for the selected site, you need to calculate how many cubic yards of paving material does the contractor contractor have to deliver before starting to make a profit if paid $8.05 per cubic yard delivered to the job location. Okay, so basically first question and the second question is related, so you need properly do the calculation. Okay, you need to understand all of this given information and the details. Okay, this is the solution. Okay, first thing first, you need to answer the first question. For this question, you need to identify which of the given cost factor fall into which category. Okay, either it is fixed cost or variable cost. Okay, in this case, fixed cost consists of rental, setup and removal, and also flat person. All of these costs are constant with the constant throughout the project or throughout the construction. And then you have variable cost. For this case, it is only hauling because it is considered as variable. Since it's vary with the distance and output of the job itself. Okay, so we have here first fixed cost, and then we have variable cost. Okay, you need to properly differentiate and categorize this cost, so later on you will have a correct calculation. Okay, if you are unable to categorize the cost, so there will be difference in terms of your calculation value. Okay. Okay, now we will prepare. It is easier for you to answer in this table form so that you can just directly prepare side by side, side A and side B. And in some other cases, you will be given up to 3 option or up to 3 sites to be evaluated. Okay, for this case, there are only 2 sites. Okay, side A and side B. Okay. So far, is everything okay? Can you understand the calculation flow? Okay. All right. Okay, so I will proceed to the rest of the calculation. Okay. If you have this kind of table, then you just put all of the cost factor according to each side. Okay, for this side A, we have 4,000 for the rental. Whereas for the side B, we have 20,000. Okay, because it is already given that in the previous table. Yeah. Okay, in the previous table, it's already given that monthly rental of side A is 1,000 and side B is 5,000. So, for the solution or for the calculation, you need to times the monthly rental rate with the total duration for this project. Okay, so previously it's already mentioned that the total project is about 4 months. So here with side A, you just need to multiply 1,000 with 4 months so that you come out with this amount. And similar to this one, 5,000 times by 4 months. Okay, so you got this 20,000. All right. And then for the setup and removal, you just straightforward copy from this table. It's already given 50,000 and also 25,000. For hauling, you need to do some calculation because hauling it is given in the distance and also the distance. Okay, here we have 6 miles and 4.3 miles. And you need to times with the hauling expense, and then this one, the total cubic yard requires for the whole project. So at the end, you will come out with the total hauling cost or expenses here for both sides. Okay. Right, and then we proceed to the flat person. They only this one rental, setup and removal. Flat person is the FC. Oh, sorry, this one if F. Fixed cost, only hauling for the VC, variable cost. And the last one, we need to included the flat person charge rate for side A because there is no requirement, so the total will be 0, the total cost. And for side B, you need to do the calculation. You need to consider the daily charge. Okay, if we refer back to this table, the charge to employ the flat person is $96 per day. Okay, so here we have $96 per day times with the duration of the project. It's already given that 4 months equivalent to 70 weeks with 5 days working days. Okay, so that's why you will come out with this amount. And at the bottom part, you just need to add up all this sub cost factor to come out with the total cost. Okay, so based on this calculation breakdown, at the end you will obtain the total cost. So once you able to obtain this total cost, so you can do your evaluation or do some justification which side that you will choose for this case. Okay. In this case, it is obviously that side B will be selected because the total cost is smaller than side A. Okay, the justification is that side B has larger fixed costs. However, it has smaller total cost because the extra fixed cost being traded off for reduced variable cost. Okay, if you can see here that the fixed cost for side B are mostly larger or bigger than the side A because we have fixed cost for rental, setup and removal, and also flat person, which is all of this greater than side A. Okay, here we have 20,000, 25,000, and also here we have about around 8,000 as compared to the side A. However, at the end, this side B able to have a lower total cost because it has here, it has reduced variable cost. For the hauling, instead of instead of 6 miles for the hauling distance, it is only 4.3 miles here. So the main difference is for this part. Okay, so overall you need to properly categorize or classify the cost according to the types, either it is fixed or variable, and then you need to do the detailed calculation based on the given question. Okay, so up until here you are able to answering the first question. Okay, then we will proceed to the second or question number 2 for fixed cost and variable cost. Okay, the question number 2, based on which side that you have selected. Okay, in this case, it is obviously side B is better than side A. So we will proceed the calculation based on side B. All right. Okay, for this case, the contractor will begin to make a profit at the point where total revenue equals to the total cost. Okay, as a function of the cubic yards of asphalt pavement mix delivered. Okay, we need to assume that total cost is equal to the total revenue for the next calculation. Okay, so Side B, the given average hauling distance is around 4.3 miles. So we need to times with the rate of hauling expense. Okay, try to double check on the previous table. Okay, hauling expenses rate is 1.15 per cubic yard mile. Okay. Okay, so once we times with this, so we have this variable, this amount as variable cost per cubic yard delivered in terms of the asphalt pavement mix. And then just now, we need to assume that total cost is equal to total revenue. Okay, based on the situation or based on the given question, total cost is equal to total revenue, where you need to convert this total cost, which is the same with total cost is equal to fixed cost plus VC. Again, you need to apply the formula to this calculation. So FC plus VC is equal to total revenue. So you just need to insert all the related amount or related value. So you need to sum up all of the fixed costs here based on the table. Sorry. Here you have fixed cost rental. So you need to total up 20,000, 25,000, and also 8,160. So at the end, you will come up with this amount plus with the variable cost. This one we have the rate itself 4.954, okay, and then is equal to total revenue. So where do we get these total revenue numbers? It's basically from this equation. Okay, it is given that $8.05 per cubic yard delivered to the job location. Okay, so X is the unknown that we need to calculate, because we want to know the amount or the total material to be delivered. Okay, so that's why we do the calculation. So at the end, we will able to obtain this 17,121 cubic yard for the pavement mix to be delivered. Okay, so for the conclusion, by using side B, the contractor will begin to make profit on the job after delivering this amount of the material. Okay, so this is how to answer the second question. Okay, so everything okay? Before we proceed to the, I think the last calculation example after this. All right. Okay. So later on, I will share these lecture notes and also the recording, lecture recording, so that you can go through all the topics and also the subtopics for today's class. So later, if you have anything that's still unclear, you may contact me. Okay. Alright, I will try to assist all of you. Okay. So the last part for the calculation for today's topic, we are going to cover on interest. Okay, the first one is simple interest, and the latter we will cover on compounded interest. Okay, so basically for the simple interest, it is just a simple and straightforward calculation. Okay, for this question, it is mentioned that if 5,000 were loaned for 5 years at a simple interest rate, usually in the question it's already given what types of interest that they are intend to use. Okay, for this case we have simple interest type. So the interest rate of this situation is 7% per year. So the question asks you to calculate the interest earned and total amount repaid. Okay, So just directly apply the equation. Interest is equal to principal times with the number of interest year and times with the interest rate. So just directly extract the information to the equation. 5,000 times 5 years and 0.07 for the interest rate. So at the end, you will come out with this value. And do not forget to calculate the total amount repaid. So total amount repaid, just total up this principal, the first principal loan or borrowed for the respective parties, and then you just add up with the interest earned. So this is the total amount repaid. Okay, so this is just a straightforward calculation for simple interest. Okay, the next one we have, I think this is the last one. Okay, for the compound interest or compounded interest example, here we have 1,000 loan for 3 periods and at interest of 10,000, at an interest of 10% compounded for each period. So meaning that period can be usually in terms of years. So 3 years here. So the first, this one it is better for you to calculate this kind of compound interest in table form. Okay, so it is easier and it's clear for you. So periods refer to, basically most of the time periods refer to the year. Okay, this is the first year, second year, and also third year. Alright, so this is the amount based on year, and this is also the period according to the year. And we just start to do the calculation by keying the value. The first principal is 1,000. Interest amount, which is 10% for the first year or first period out of this 1,000. So amount repaid at the end of period 1 is 1,100. Okay. The main difference between the compound and the simple interest is that for the second year, you need to use this new amount to be carried forward here. Okay. Because there will be a constant charge throughout the interest period. If we refer back to the definition and description of the interest and compound period. Okay, so just bring forward this accumulated value to the second period, and then just repeat the same calculation where you need to charge for 10% interest rate, and you come out with this one. Then total up both of this value, you come out with the second amount repaid for the second period. Similarly, you bring it here to proceed with the third year period. At the end, this is the amount repaid at the period 3. Okay, during the third period. Okay, so with that, I think that's all for today's, okay, for today's class. Okay, do you have anything to ask? Or okay, everyone okay, good. Can you hear me? Alright. Okay, takut tak dengar ke apa kan sebab sini dah hujan ni. Okay, so if you have nothing to ask or clarify for today's topic, I think that's all for today. And before we end our class, I will share the QR code for your attendance record. And hopefully, I hope that all of you are able to grab the main idea or main component for today's class. Okay. So later Again, if you have anything to ask, you may ask any of us, either Dr. Easy, me, and also PM Azirudin regarding each related topic. Okay, so please scan your attendance record before we end our class today. This is the QR code for your attendance. Okay. With that, once you have record your attendance, so that's all for today's. Hope to see all of you on the upcoming weeks. Maybe next class by me will be on week week 10 or week 11. Okay. So that's all from me. Thank you for your participation. Okay, that's all. Assalamualaikum and very good day.